We're here at Content Marketing World with Linda Boff, the CMO of GE. Welcome, Linda.
Thanks, Mia. It's great to be here. I love your red couch.
Thank you so much. A little bit intimate.
It's okay. Intimate works.
So let's start our conversation with storytelling,
Yep.
since that was the crux of your keynote that you just gave. How do you identify great stories to tell?
Yeah, it's such a fundamental question. I think that, we look for stories that are inherently human, relatable, interesting. I often talk at GE about embracing our own interestingness, which is different than another company's interestingness. We kind of geek out a little bit on science, technology. So, and I always love, you don't always get it, but I always love a bit of a twist. If there's something in a story that's unexpected, I think it just makes it that much more engaging. And as a brand, we kind of relish the unexpected because we've been around for a long time. 125 years. People think they know us. So I think when we can add just a little bit of a twist, it helps remind people that that we're still this wonderful, vital company that's solving tough problems for the world.
You talked a little bit about a formula for content. Yes. Could you maybe reiterate that formula here?
Yeah, of course. We are a company that has the DNA of an inventor, right? DNA of Thomas Edison. So we love formulas. So our formula is kind of a simple one. We look to be early first on new platforms as a way to kind of show and share our DNA of innovation. We love the idea of reaching new audiences. Once again, venerable brand, but are we as known as relatable to young, new millennial audiences, or just audiences that may not experience us in their day-to-day life? You don't put GE in your pocket the way you do a phone or something.
Right.
So that's part of it, finding new audiences, and being always human and relatable, kind of back to what we said a few minutes ago. And then this idea, if we do all those things, of just staying in motion, of never kind of feeling like we reached the finish line, because to me, what we all try to do in great storytelling, the opportunities are ever changing, the platforms are ever changing, and I love that hunger of what can we do next.
Right.
So that idea of continuous motion is really important to us.
I was surprised to hear you say that you didn't believe in taglines. How
come?
come?
Well, so maybe it goes back a little bit to what we were just saying, Mia, in that a tagline has a lot of finality to it. And it kind of, I think, is a little bit of a freeze frame. And I think we live in a world, IRL or what have you, that is always moving, right? So I think there's a piece of that. And I think as well, and there have been great taglines, by the way. Other companies, I think we've had some of the most iconic taglines in the history of brands, but I think there's something about them that is also, this is all we are. And no company is just 3 or 4 or 5 words. So I'm not sure they're over, but they're just, I don't think they are what they once were.
Yeah, I love that experimentation is kind of core to your strategy. So what have been some of your most successful experiments, and conversely, what experiments have failed and what have you learned?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll give you a couple. So some which I didn't mention there, so a bit of a scoop. One of my favorite experiments is something that we did when Twitter launched Vine. It was called 6 Second Science, and it was literally like, pretend we're back and forth 5th, 6th grade, like the little science experiments you would do with, a potato or what have you, or an avocado seed. So these were 6-second videos with science experiments, and we did one at GE with a little petri dish and food coloring and a Q-tip, and it kind of the color spirographs out, and it's really beautiful. And we put it online and said, show us your experiments, and hundreds of people submitted theirs. So the reason I love that is because it was more or less, I don't know, what did that cost us? $2.99 to do,
right.
A petri dish, some water, some food color, etc. So So I love that. I love an example I gave earlier today was something where we kind of reached into the past. Once upon a time, we had the GE Theater with Ronald Reagan, so we sort of reinvented that and made it GE Podcast Theater, sort of leaning into what we all, I think maybe I'm speaking for you, certainly a lot of us love, which is podcasts.
Yeah.
So, look, it's easy to remember the good ones. I'm an optimist, so I always go to those. There have been plenty of platforms that, we've sort of taken a flyer on, done something, and, they're not around, or we were too early. I can remember doing something, God, this feels like a lifetime ago, with Thingiverse, Brie Pettis, in the early days of 3D printing, and it was a little too soon. Now here we are, flash forward, 6 years, additive manufacturing, so 3D printing for industry, is one of GE's brightest spots in the future.
Yeah.
It is going to be fantastic for the company. 6 years ago, people couldn't spell 3D printing.
Right.
So, sometimes it's just a question of timing.
Right. And when there are so many options to experiment with, how do you maintain focus?
I think that's the key question.
Yeah.
I rely on my team. They're excellent. They are constantly playing themselves, meeting with people, trying out different platforms. I talk to people in the industry, not just, people like Mike at Flipboard and others, but who's a great one, but people who just, I think are good purveyors of what has a chance of engaging an audience. And I try super hard. I was once upon a time a psych major, and I try to always think about what we're doing from the point of view of the user, and what will actually be something that is engaging, what will actually be a story that has a chance of somebody wanting to share and retell. And I think as a marketer, things can look good on a marketing plan and can be very bad in reality. So I try to flip and always kind of come at it from the audience's point of view versus ours.
And how do you measure the success of your campaigns and then balance that with maybe what feels intuitively right?
Yeah, again, really good question. I mean, I do think as storytellers, since we're at a storytelling convention, if you will, I do think gut is important.
Yeah.
I think you can't, in my opinion, focus group something to success. I always love the expression, be idea-led and consumer-informed. So I think gut matters, and you only get gut, in my opinion, if you have a North Star, if you have a strategy, if you know your brand, if you know the story you want to tell, if you've kind of sweated the details of what's the right tone, etc. All that being said, back to your question about what's success, we look at metrics throughout the funnel, upper, middle, lower funnel, and one of the things we take a lot of pride in is the value of the GE brand. We've been a top 10 brand worth, $43 billion, and why does that matter in real life? Well, it's a license to do business. It leads to preference and price and so many things. So brand matters in very significant ways, sort of to open the door for business. And then along the way, storytelling, I think, is a tremendous device in continuing to connect with your audience and your customers.
Right. You've talked about running your team like a startup within a 124-year-old company. How do you do that?
Well, we're small. That's a good start. People are shocked at the size of our team.
How big is it?
It's under 20 people doing global brand marketing for GE. I mean, it's really small. So
that helps.
Yeah, it does. Scarcity is always a good thing. I'd say a couple things. One, I try hard to hire crazy smart, curious, resourceful people and give them runway to do good work. We've tried to, so that's one. I'd say another is we've tried to set up the team to ensure that experimentation happens. So we took the step of creating a disruption lab. So we took 3-4 people from the team and said, okay, your day job, what you need to wake up and think about is what's next, what's around the corner. And I think, well, in a way that's everybody's job. I think that's my job as CMO, to kind of make it first on somebody's list, I thought was really important to do. It gave permission versus, oh, if I get an extra, hour, I can try to, figure out what's coming up on a technology brand, marketing platform. So I think those have been helpful things. I try to get out of the way too as a leader.
As a high-level female executive, how do you think about gender diversity in the workplace, and what advice would you give to young women who would look up to you?
Yeah, so this is a passion point for me. I showed this morning a film that highlighted an initiative at GE, which is balancing the equation of women in tech roles at the company, tech being everything from engineering to data science, computer science, et cetera. So I'm super proud to work at a company where this is a priority.
Yeah.
I think those things matter. I think choosing a company that shares your values, as mine does, is advice I would give to young women. It's so tempting, Mia, to sort of say, no, I'm going to go and I'm going to change things, and God bless you if you can. But I think, being someplace where people stand up for what's right, I think is super important. I think, what would I tell my 21-year-old self? I guess that's sort of what I tell my daughter, who's in her early 20s, which is be yourself. Be very comfortable with who you are, because that diversity, not just of gender, but of thought and point of view, makes the workplace better, makes work richer. So that would be one. And take the chances early. I don't have many regrets, but I always wish that I had taken a global assignment early in my career and just said, okay, I'm going to go live in, I don't know, Myanmar for 6 months or something. And I didn't, and it gets harder as you get older.
Yeah. What's the flip side of Linda? Flipboard is the one place for all your passions.
Yeah.
So what does that look like for you?
So let's see. I box. I love boxing. I'm not very good at it, but I'm determined to get in the ring, even if it's like whatever. So I box. I am a passionate reader. I read most books on Audible, and I read mostly fiction. What else? I love the outdoors, kayak, swim. I have a big dog who I walk, and the more time I can spend with my husband and my 2 kids, the happier I am.
That's great, Linda. Thank you so much for
You're so
your
welcome.
time.
Thank
so
you,
nice
Mia.
to meet you.
It was so nice talking.